Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and today we are joined with Avram of All Day Pigskin on YouTube. Make sure you guys check it out. I'll let him do his introduction in a second. But today we are doing dueling mocks, which means I'm going to go first, and then he is going to go, and then we rotate back and forth every single pick until we get all the way through the first round of the 2021 NFL Draft. If you guys do end up enjoying and you find him to be very interesting, which you should, he's a very nice guy, make sure that you guys hit the subscribe button to my channel and to his, which will be linked down below. So you got anything to say before we get into it here?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm pumped as hell to do this. Like you said, you can follow me at All Day Pigskin on YouTube, on Twitter, same handle as well. And I've been getting into these mock drafts just like I've seen that you have. So I'm pumped for this. See what we each think about these teams, about these selections, and put together the best mock draft we can, right?
Yeah, for sure. And let us know down below in the comments any picks that you hate, because the more comments you leave, the more that this gets recommended to more people. So even if you're angry, it helps us out. So I would appreciate that. So we will begin here with pick number 1. I'm going first. And this is obvious. We don't even need to talk about this very much at all. We can kind of just give little speak about some of these guys at the beginning because it's not super complicated, especially Trevor Lawrence to the Jaguars. That's what I'm going to go with. To me, it is a no-brainer. And if you have anything to add about it, you can talk about it, but I don't think there's too much to talk about here. The best quarterback in the class, the Jaguars need a quarterback. It's like a no-brainer.
Yeah, man. This pick is set in stone. No matter how many mock drafts you see, no matter who you follow in terms of analysts for this, it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. You can take that to the bank. So done deal.
Yeah. So even the people who make mock drafts that aren't as good still have Trevor Lawrence at number 1. So
exactly. But yeah, so I got the Jets next, and man, it's kind of up in the air, but I do think they're going to go quarterback just because of all the rumors about Darnold, like, oh, we're taking calls for him, and you got a new head coach in town. So it just kind of makes sense that they're going to go with their own handpicked guy.
yeah.
And I'm between Wilson and Fields. And recently, all the stuff that I've seen has been kind of leaning Wilson a little bit. So I'm going to go with Wilson. I think he's a little better of a prototypical NFL passer. And afterwards, they've got enough ammunition so they can surround him with some other talent. So I think it's a good start as any. And then probably by draft day, I'm guessing Darnold will have been traded by then.
Yeah, or he's going to get traded like as the pick happens. They'll move on.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think Zach Wilson is the correct pick here as well. It's definitely between the two quarterbacks, and it's pretty impossible to know what the Jets actually think or who they believe is the better prospect. So Zach Wilson to me seems like a pretty good guess right now. At 3, the Dolphins are up now. As a Dolphins fan, I would like us to select a tackle here, which would be Sewell at this pick. But I personally think we are not going to do that. And we are going to just go with Jamar Chase to get Tua a weapon. Tua was thrown to guys that literally were dropping the ball all the time. I understand Tua wasn't playing that good. I am a Dolphins fan, so I'm a little bit biased. But he wasn't looking the greatest. But even when he was putting the ball into the guys' hands, they're dropping it. Besides Devontae Parker and Gesicki, we have 0 weapons. Even the guys who opted out are not very good for the Dolphins. So personally, I hope we go Sewell, but I think we're going to end up ultimately selecting Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of LSU. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man. For the Dolphins, I think the draft starts with them, honestly, at number 3. And it's either offensive lineman first and then wide receiver, or the other way around, I figure. But maybe the Wilson trade that they just pulled off, not that he had that great of a rookie season or anything or really showed anything, but he's still got some upside. So maybe they feel a little bit more comfortable going wide receiver first then and then going offensive lineman. So dude, honestly, with the Dolphins, I think they're in probably the best position out of any team in the entire NFL draft. Like, they can't mess this up, whatever they do. They've got elite prospects everywhere at those 2 positions, probably the 2 deepest positions in the entire draft. So yeah, I like that pick. Whether it's a wide receiver with Chase or Devonta Smith, that'd be the only thing that I'm wondering.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they went with Smith, obviously, because Tua and him played together in college, but that's going to be a narrative that gets talked about a lot, so we don't really have to dive super deep into that.
Sure. So I got the Falcons next, and I think they've got a bunch of needs defensively, but honestly, they'd be reaching here if they went with a defensive prospect, in my opinion. I don't think there's anybody good enough to be a top 5 defensive pick this year. There's no like Chase Young or Bosa type of talent this year. So to me, you got to go offense and probably quarterback again. I really like Matt Ryan, but it seems like his time is kind of coming to an end. So I'm going next best available quarterback, Justin Fields. You know, maybe he shares some Michael Vick-esque properties, even though that's probably a stretch, but there's some similarities there in terms of being a mobile quarterback. And Matt Ryan can kind of be that bridge guy for him, as crazy as that sounds, because I think Matt Ryan still has it. But I think the Falcons are just kind of at the situation where they got to do something different, and they're going to be parting ways with some, faces of the franchise, Ryan, potentially Julio Jones in the next like year and a half or something like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I agree. I don't think there's really anywhere they can go in the draft on defense. I mean, you could go edge rusher at this pick. It says they need an edge rusher, but you can't go edge rusher at pick 4, right? It's not like a guy like Chase Young, like you said. So you're good with Fields here, you said, right?
Yeah, I'm good with Fields there. I mean, I could see them trading down or something like that, but I know we're kind of avoiding trades right now for you know with a quarterback needy team or something. That would kind of make sense. But if they stay put here, I got to figure it's going to be quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Dolphins may actually be a team to trade, but based on something I read, I heard that a majority of the time trading a top 5 pick is very hard in the draft and typically never happens. So that does kind of worry me for the Dolphins, because I'd also actually like to see us move the pick to acquire more kind of capital later on in the following years. So now I'm up here with the Bengals. I do agree with Justin Fields. I think Fields is a very good player. I do worry about him reading through his progressions correctly, but again, you don't even know what the play calls are in reality. You don't know what they're supposed to do. I mean, when you have Chris Olave, who's going to be wide open half the time, you might as well just that be your first read and throw it to him every time. So at number 5, we got the Bengals. And to me, I know a lot of Bengals fans really want to draft a wide receiver. They really want to have Boyd, they want to have Higgins, and they want to have someone else there. Maybe it'll be Waddle, maybe Devontae Smith. Maybe they want Kyle Pitts as well, because they haven't had a good tight end since Tyler Eifert when he was actually good like 5 years ago. But I think the best move is to protect Joe Burrow. Kind of a no-brainer pick if you're the Bengals. And I would feel very surprised if Sewell fell this far and they didn't take him. So he's kind of an easy pick here. What do you think?
Yeah, dude, I'm on board with that. Just because you can't waste away Joe Burrow's career. Like, the guy has it definitely, but you don't want him to be the next Andrew Luck. He's running for his life last year, and then worst case scenario obviously happened, him getting that serious injury. So you need to upgrade that offensive line. Last year it was a need. This year it's just as much, if not bigger, of a need. So offensive line here, I realize there's going to be a lot of tempting choices, like you said, Pitts or a wide receiver, but you just got to be smart. And it's good value too, with whether it's Sewell or another one of these offensive linemen, Slater or something like that. I like both of them. I don't think they can go wrong with either one. They need help at that position. They got to protect Burrow, man. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's very simple. I mean, we saw Burrow get collapsed on last year, and even for Joe Mixon, he needs some help as well, because he just wasn't performing either without any real offensive line. So you're up here at 6.
Yep. I got the Eagles here at 6, and I've usually been going wide receiver here in Jamar Chase, but I'm going to switch it up here a little bit, because I know how how much the Eagles like to run their tight end sets and how much they rely on that position. Probably Ertz isn't going to be in their plans for 2021, and if that changes, then sure, this pick probably isn't a tight end. But right now, just kind of gauging the situation there, I think they're going to need a Zach Ertz replacement. Yes, Goddard's nice, but the way they've been doing it, they've been bringing in that second tight end. So I'm going Kyle Pitts here, tight end. If Chase was on the board, I'd probably go him, just because to me, he's the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver in the draft class. But even with Kyle Pitts, like the tight end designation, I think that's kind of deceiving. I think you just got to look at him as a pass catcher, sort of. The guy's so talented. And like, if he was a wide receiver, like if that position said wide receiver for him, the guy'd be in the conversation for potentially top wide receiver right below Jamar Chase. So I like the fit for the Eagles. They got to surround Hurts with talent. Like Carson Wentz, that era is over. Don't talk to me about bringing in another quarterback for quarterback competition. That'd be idiotic to me. But that's just my opinion on it. And if that's the case, you got to see if Hurts has it. So you got to get him offensive weapons.
Yeah, it's pretty much just get the best player available at that point on offense. And like you said, Pitts is legitimately a wide receiver. He's just a tight end, like technically just listed as a tight end. The guy's insane. He played really good 2 years ago, but this year is when we saw like the extreme breakout, the guy scoring touchdowns left and right. And he was very important to the success of the Gators this year, even though obviously they didn't make the playoffs or anything, but they were still a pretty solid team. They held in there in the SEC championship with Alabama, a lot due to Kyle Pitts. He's a very good player. And I agree. I think the Hurts needs a guy like Pitts, even though it's kind of sad for fantasy purposes, obviously, because a lot of people are big fans of Goddard, obviously. So at 7, I'm up here, and I think the Lions could really go any way here. If I am the Lions, I think Galladay is out. Marvin Jones is definitely out. I don't know if you watched the press conference, but people were telling me in his press conference, he pretty much gave the middle finger to the whole organization. He wanted out of there, so he's definitely gone. Galladay probably gone as well. So I think they end up bringing in a wide receiver. Now, I understand the Draft Network technically has Waddle ranked ahead of Devontae Smith, but I think if I'm the Lions, I personally believe the better wide receiver here is Devontae Smith. So that's where I'm going to go. But if I didn't go that way, I wouldn't be surprised if they went with corner. Their defense is decimated, and getting a guy like Patrick Surtain or really any of these corners, Caleb Farley. I understand that J.C. Horn's obviously ranked lower, so you wouldn't want to draft him, but either of those corners in Farley or in Surtain would be good, but I'm going to end up going with Devontae Smith here. You liking that, or do you feel they go somewhere else?
I like it. If they go offense, seemingly it has to be wide receiver. Like Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay, even Danny Amendola, even though he wasn't that much of a factor last year, all those guys potentially going to be gone. You got to replace them. And, as bad as Jared Goff might be, or, some people think he is, you still got to surround him with talent. I'm not as out on him as some are, but if he doesn't have anybody to throw the football, then it's going to be a shit show. So you got to add a wide receiver. You got to add a pass catcher. I also have Devonta Smith as my next guy up, regardless of what the rankings say here. But honestly, whether it's Waddle, Smith, I don't think the Lions can really go wrong in any direction. If they do go defense, which, I wouldn't be shocked to see, I agree with you. Probably cornerback would be the way to go.
All right, yeah. The Lions now getting a new head coach and everything. Hopefully that's better for them. They obviously got those picks for Stafford, but I do agree with you. I think Goff I wouldn't say he's underrated, right? Because he's not great, but he's just like the most average quarterback you can have in the NFL.
Yeah, pretty much. So I got number 8 here next, and spoiler, I'm a Panthers fan, so I'm biased as hell with this pick. Like every single mock draft you're going to see, it's going to be Trey Lance to the Carolina Panthers, unless they do, a trade for Deshaun Watson, which I don't think is going to happen. I think the guy's staying in Houston, but hell, I don't know. We'll see. The Texans have done stupider things before. So yeah, it's a boring pick. If it was me making this selection as their GM, I'd be going probably Rashawn Slater. I love him as an offensive tackle. And honestly, the Panthers need positional help at pretty much every single level. Their offensive line is atrocious other than Moton. They need wide receivers. Robbie Anderson is going to be gone after this year, probably. Their defense is a mess without Luke Kuechly when he retired. So they could use help everywhere, but quarterback's the most important position. So I'm just going to keep this probably as, standard as can be. It's kind of boring, but Trey Lance to the Panthers, next best available quarterback. He's got a huge ceiling. The competition he played, it's not really inspiring, but I think he's going to be the guy if he's available, come April, because he's kind of, I think, going up draft boards a little bit after his pro day.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking up Lance, which to me makes it very interesting for my Dolphins, obviously, to make a move to get out of there at 3. I really do like Trey Lance. If you're a Panthers fan, obviously, which I know you are, do you want Deshaun Watson, or would you rather just take the shot here at 8 and get Trey Lance, obviously?
I mean, to me, it depends on what the Panthers would have to give up. Like if it's 3 first-round picks, which probably is going to be at a minimum, and then you throw in another player, and especially if it's a stud defensive player, I probably wouldn't do it. If it's Christian McCaffrey, all right, screw it. I don't value running backs all that much. Honestly, I think they grow on trees. And yes, McCaffrey is, pretty much a wide receiver as well, the 1,000 season. But, it's going to be so hard to duplicate that. And, he's probably got a couple more years left in him, and then it's going to be a decline. So if you can move Christian McCaffrey and avoid, giving them an extra first-round pick, then I'd do it. But otherwise, I'd be all right with them going Trey Lance. Yeah.
Okay. So at number 9, I am up here with the Denver Broncos. Now, the Broncos are in an interesting spot here because I could see them going either corner or edge rusher here. Now, there's decent amount of debate, at least based on what I've seen, who the best edge rusher is in the draft. Some people talk about Kwity Paye being the first one off the board. Others are more on Gregory Rousseau. There's obviously Azeez Ojulari fans as well. So to me, if I'm the Broncos, their quarterback situation is down tremendous right now with Drew Lock, but there's no quarterbacks available here. You're not going to reach up and pick Mac Jones at 9. That would be pretty insane. So I think they end up just going with, I can see them going linebacker as well with Micah Parsons, but I think Kwity Paye is a solid pick to the Broncos. I mean, obviously some people disagree and they'd prefer a corner, but I think adding to the defensive line is going to be very key for their future. I think they're a team that is a couple of years out from being potentially good. They play in an impossible division at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and get some defense to potentially murder Patrick Mahomes, whose offensive line now just decided to leave him. So
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
I'm going to go Paye here. Do you agree with that, or would you have went elsewhere?
So, yeah, I think this pick is going to be defense for sure. Just knowing the head coach there and the defensive mentality. You can't go quarterback at this point. That'd be a reach. So the two positions I'd be looking at are cornerback in the secondary and then defensive end. But I mean, when you look at the, positional evaluation, obviously edge rusher is more important than cornerback. So I get it here. I don't mind the pick at all. I've been mostly, mocking either Surtain or Farley to the Broncos, but Paye makes sense a lot. And if he kills it during his pro day, and those stats come out and he's solidified as a top overall edge rusher, he's definitely going to go up draft boards. And I think this is probably right around where a run on defense could potentially start.
Yeah, and the funny thing when you talk about pro days is just the numbers that come out, especially from the 40, just seem absolutely crazy. Guys are running so fast, and then people obviously add like 0.05 seconds to everything to make it fair. But I always wonder if they are actually running that fast and if they're getting it correct or if they're just lying straight to our faces. So you're up here at 10. What do you think for Dallas?
I got the Cowboys here, and I'm going offensive lineman. I'm going Rashawn Slater. Cornerback's a huge area of need, but the Cowboys have done it before, like build the strength of their team with the offensive line. And it wasn't all that long ago, and it was successful. Give time to Dak Prescott, open up holes for Ezekiel Elliott. And they had one of the best offensive linemen, but kind of due to retirements, injuries, it's kind of, gone downhill a little bit. Yeah. So I think they got to fortify that offensive line. I love Slater. I actually have him a little bit above Sewell just because I think he's a little bit more versatile. But to me here, it's a no-brainer. I love the pick, offensive lineman. You just paid a bunch of money to Dak Prescott to make him your guy for the near future. So you better protect him. Kind of similar situation as, maybe the Bengals, even though the Cowboys offensive line isn't as bad, but they need to add another piece here. So I like Slater.
Yeah, I like that pick as well. Most time I'm looking to get them a corner because their defense is so bad, but it does make sense. I mean, when you think of Dallas, you think of a very good offensive line. And like you said, they just haven't had that recently. Back in the day, DeMarco Murray would run for a zillion yards behind that line. Now it's just no longer that line. So Rashawn Slater makes a lot of sense. And I think, like you said, you have to protect Dak because you paid him just a freakish amount of money for a couple of years of contract. So at 11, NFC East rival, the Giants are up. And here, they have to help Danny Dimes. I mean, I understand if they want to go something on defense. Their defense does need help as well. But if you don't help Daniel Jones, you will never see if he's good or not. And then you're just going to let go of him, obviously. And then you'll never really know because he probably won't get another chance in the NFL to be a starter. So I'm going to go ahead and draft Jalen Waddle to the Giants. Personally, I think the best pick would have been Kyle Pitts, but obviously he went a zillion picks ahead of this. I don't think Pitts falls outside of the top 10, but I would like him to go to the Giants. But at the end of the day, Jalen Waddle is a very solid wide receiver out of Alabama. Obviously was a bit banged up this year, and he doesn't have the stats of either wide receivers that are ahead of him. But at the end of the day, when you're looking at a wide receiver, you don't have to just look at the stats. You can go ahead and watch the tape. And Jalen Waddle is a very good athlete, and I think he fits well with the Giants, who desperately need a real wide receiver there. That's at least somewhat young.
100%. This pick has got to be, if it's on offense, it's got to be either tight end or wide receiver. Completely agree. You got to get Daniel Jones some weapons. They just released Golden Tate not too long ago, so it makes sense to add another wide receiver. Hell, he might be their best wide receiver day one. So, I like that pick for him.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely will be the best wide receiver day one. I mean, Golden Tate, I thought was pretty good, but his wife got into like an argument on Instagram with the Giants organization, so you had to know it was done after that. So you're up here at
Yeah.
12 with the Niners, which this is a very interesting pick in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you see the team needs there, cornerback, offensive lineman, and that's how I've been treating it too. But I saw that Trent Williams is likely to stay with the 49ers. So I'll probably pivot to cornerback here and just go Farley. I think it's a coin flip whether you have him or Surtain as your number one ranked cornerback. It's ultimately going to probably come down to team need and their preference and how they rank these guys. And again, this could change after pro days and all that is finalized. But yeah, I'm going Farley. Sherman, he said it himself. He's probably not coming back. That secondary was kind of suspect to begin with. Now losing arguably their best cornerback in Sherman. They got to replace him. So I'll go with Farley, but offensive line, definitely a possibility considering that the 49ers want to be a run first team and that, Garoppolo isn't necessarily an elite quarterback.
Yeah, I was very interested when the Niners decided to keep Garoppolo after they were getting calls from the Patriots and all that. The Patriots bringing Cam, so now they're stuck with Jimmy G, obviously in San Francisco. Now, I don't think he's necessarily bad, but again, like you said, they're a run-heavy team, so it would make sense to go tackle. I do like Farley though a lot. You said as well. I'm just going to repeat you. It is a coin flip between Surtain and Farley. People are saying Farley is the best lockdown corner. PFF has Surtain ranked as the best overall defensive player in football in college last season. Obviously, to me, I'm not a big PFF guy because those grades to me seem like they're just flying out of people's asses. But again, both very good guys. So at 13, the Chargers are up now. Again, if I'm the Chargers, I would not bring back Hunter Henry. I don't know if they're going to end up doing that or not. And Kyle Pitts here would be a juicy pick. Again, obviously not going to fall here. You're not going to pick Pat Fairmouth in the 13th pick. So you're stuck here at this pick. Slater's already off the board. So to me, I'm gonna be honest. I think they can pick Christian Darrisaw here. It may be a little bit of a reach. I think the only other position they could go here, they could also go with Patrick Surtain. I mean, their defense is just decimated last year due to injuries. Seems like every year the Chargers going into the season seem like they have a top 10 defense, and then literally 3 practices into OTAs, half the guys are getting carried out in a casket. So I'm gonna go with Darrisaw here, but again, I think Surtain could easily be the pick here. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with that. Offensive line, it's going to be a position of need. I know they just released Trey Turner. So, I mean, obviously Darrisaw is a tackle. Turner was a guard, but the fact remains you got to add pieces to the offensive line. Seemingly, you got a good quarterback in Herbert. So again, anytime you find the quarterback, you got to go make sure that he's got an offensive line to protect him. But I wouldn't be shocked if it's at the same time a pick in the secondary. I think offensive line, secondary help. If Hunter Henry leaves, then Kyle Pitts would be my top choice. But again, I don't think he's going to be available here.
Yeah, I agree. So at 14, you're up here with the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, man. With the Vikings, honestly, I think they can go any number of ways. And I think it's going to be so dependent on what they do in free agency. So to me, this pick is a complete crapshoot. It could be offense. It could be defense. Their defense was absolutely atrocious last season from the D line pretty much all the way to the secondary. The offensive line, there have been changes there as well. And you gotta protect Kirk Cousins. You gotta go ahead and continue to open up lanes for Dalvin Cook. So might be a little bit of a reach, but I think he has a lot of versatility. I'm going to go with Elijah Vera Tucker here for the Vikings.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the Vikings to me seem like a team that could easily trade back here because they just have so many needs. And I mean, what's moving back a couple of picks so that some team can move up and pick Mac Jones or something. But again, we're not doing trades. I agree. I would need to help Dalvin Cook more than Kirk Cousins. They're going to try to run the ball 7 zillion times. And Dalvin Cook is not, in my opinion, he's no longer an injury prone player, but he does kind of have that narrative around him. And making sure that you can protect him any given time is very important, at least in my opinion. I like Vera Tucker out of USC. And again, like you said, the Vikings could literally go anywhere at that pick.
Yeah.
So at 15, I'm up with the Patriots. And I mean, we're at a point here where I wouldn't be surprised if they picked Mac Jones. Would you be surprised if that happened? I'm not sure if I'm going to go with him, but Do you think that them signing back Cam Newton means that you can't draft a quarterback, or that opens the door to 100% still draft Mac Jones?
I mean, I definitely think they can draft a quarterback. I'm just not sure whether it'd necessarily be Mac Jones or someone maybe like in the second or,
Yeah.
rounds afterwards. Just because I saw the potential money that Cam could make, which was up to 14 million, which, is kind of a lot for a quarterback that just didn't do all that much the year prior. And obviously it's based on a bunch of incentives.
Yeah.
But, if he does hit those incentives and they draft Mac Jones, I'd have some questions, especially because I don't think, like, I've seen those narratives. Yeah, Cam Newton is going to be a good bridge quarterback, dude. No, that's Cam. That's not who Cam Newton is. The guy wants to be the dude, and I don't think he's necessarily going to be a good veteran quarterback if they bring in someone at the start, of this draft in the first round. So I think they're probably going to go elsewhere, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of 50-50 on what they're going to do here. I think they could go linebacker. Micah Parsons, they were talking about how this guy has like off the field issues because he was hazing kids allegedly. But we don't really know. I'm going to go with Micah Parsons though, out of Penn State. He seems like a perfect pick for the Patriots. Obviously, the Patriots defense no longer what they were in the past. I mean, Stephon Gilmore seems to want out of there. So it just seems like they need more defense. And with the wide receivers already gone, there's no way you're going to reach up and pick like Terrence Marshall or Rashad Bateman or someone here at 15. Even though the Patriots have 0 wide receivers, they completely failed on N'Keal Harry. They're looking to trade him. So I'm fine here going with Micah Parsons. I'm not sure if you would have went elsewhere, but that's who I like here.
I love that pick 1000%. And in the mock drafts I've done so far, it's just been Parsons to the Patriots over and over. And I'm sticking to it. It seems like, a potential guy with some off the field question marks going to Bill Belichick, that's just a good fit. And he's just going to show the middle finger to everyone else that passed him. And he just gets, a top 10 type of talent guy here at 15.
All right. So you're up here with the Cardinals, who interesting here. Very interesting.
Yeah. With the Cardinals, I'm not going running back this early. They just added JJ Watt. They gave him a crap ton of money, but that's so much for wanting to win a ring, I guess. So I'm sticking to the defensive side of the football here. I'm going cornerback. Yes, they could go offensive lineman to kind of give some more time to Kyler Murray, but we've kind of gotten into the range where the top offensive linemen are off the board, and it's kind of that next tier. So usually I've been going JC Horn here, but that's only been because Surtain hasn't been available. And, Surtain, depending on your rankings, probably a little bit higher than Horn. So I'm going to go with Surtain here to Arizona. Patrick Peterson probably not going to be back, so you need a replacement there.
Yeah, 100%. And I like what you said about JJ Watt. I really thought he was going to go somewhere to chase a ring, and then he gets signed to the Cardinals. I'm like, oh, maybe they can win, and then they pay him so much money, in my opinion, compared to what he's worth. I'm not saying he's bad anymore, but he's not JJ Watt from 2016, or maybe that was the year he got hurt. So maybe 2015, something like that, where he was truly that good. So up here at 17, we got the Raiders. And I'll be honest with you, the Raiders seem like a team that wants to get rid of Derek Carr for some reason, which I don't understand. I think Derek Carr is very good, but I think they go defense in the draft. The Raiders and John Gruden love drafting defensive guys, and I think it's going to be any of these edge rushers. It could be Azeez Ojulari, it could be Rousseau, and it could be Jalen Phillips. It seems like the majority of people are kind of out on Rousseau at this point. I don't know if you've seen that, but it seems like people are really moving him back further than what he used to go as, at least in my opinion. He used to be one of those guys that was looked at as the second best edge rusher, and now it seems like he's fallen out of favor. Have you seen that?
Yeah, man. I remember when I started looking at mock drafts like super early on, maybe like in January, and he was the guy, Rousseau, as potentially, if not the top defensive end, maybe as the second overall defensive end.
Yeah.
A top 15 pick. I saw him mocked to the Giants a lot initially, and now he's kind of going down to the 20th range, maybe even afterwards. So I wouldn't be shocked if he's a guy that even after the Raiders pick is still available for other teams.
Yeah, I mean, him opting out is what screwed him, because Jalen Phillips looked very good in 2020 after he was gone. So I'm going to go with Phillips here to the Raiders, obviously. So I don't know. I think they're going to go defense. I don't feel very confident in them doing anything besides that. Obviously, they lost one of their tackles or linemen whose name is escaping me. They didn't end up bringing him back. He's a very good player, which surprised me. So I'm going to go with Phillips here, though, on the defense. I think the Raiders, it's just Gruden loves to draft defense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think they have to go defense, and their offense. I'm not out on Derek Carr. Yeah, you said it yourself. There's plenty of wide receivers in free agency that they can potentially add. So to me, it's defense. I've been going linebacker for them, but they can't go wrong adding any one of these defensive guys at this point in time. They can only get better kind of situation for me.
Yeah. So at 18, you got my Dolphins. I'm interested to see what you're going to do.
Yeah, man, I might need your help here a little bit. Like, I know that the Dolphins released Kyle Van Noy, so I'm looking at linebackers here. Owusu Koromoa is someone that I really like as a linebacker, but at the same time, I know that the top two needs probably for the Dolphins are wide receiver and offensive lineman. I'm curious what you'd say on this if the draft plays out like this and you're the Dolphins here at 18. Would you go offensive lineman or go maybe linebacker as a little bit better player value?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I like Najee Harris. I don't think we're going to pick him. I think Brian Flores is not the kind of guy who would draft a running back here. I think we could bring in Aaron Jones, but again, Brian Flores, in my eyes, not a guy who's going to bring in a running back, pay him a lot of money. So I kind of agree with what you're saying earlier. I think they go linebacker. I think the tackles have kind of fallen off at this point. It's not, again, you said this earlier, they're the tier 2 guys. It's not like we have Darisaw available anymore or Slater. So I think they end up going linebacker. I think JOK, very good in my opinion, unless you were looking at someone different.
No, yeah, it's funny enough that you say that. I was kind of going in that direction. I've been doing offensive lineman, wide receiver a bunch, that combo for the Dolphins. I know they just swapped linebackers with the Texans here, but Kyle Van Noy, that release is still creating a hole. So yeah. I'm going JOK here. I really like him. I don't think the drop off between Parsons and him is all that much. And honestly, the only reason I haven't really considered him before is I continued to have him going 17th to the Raiders, the pick before. But if he's here, the defense took a really nice step last season. So I think it's a nice fit, plug and play guy day one. So there's not a big drop off there.
Yeah, agreed. Now I'm up here with Washington, and Washington is also pretty wide open here. They did bring back Heineke, who had one good game, but how much do they believe in Heineke? They gave him $8 million on a 2-year contract, I believe, which is not a lot of money, obviously, if it's your starting quarterback. So I think they can go either way here. I'd like to see them bring in a wide receiver to go side by side with Terry McLaurin. To me, McLaurin, a very good talent, and I think he has the potential to be like a top 10 guy in the NFL, once Julio retires or something. So I think they could bring in a guy like Bateman here, but again, it might be a little too early to do that. And it's always safe going with the tackle. And it's also safe going with Mac Jones, but I think I'm going to go tackle here. I think they give Heineke one more run at it. And the NFC East is going to be bad, so they may be able to accidentally win again and then screw themselves out of a quarterback next year for the future, just because of how bad the NFC East is. But I think if Dak is healthy, Dallas should be able to easily manhandle that division. So I'm going to go with a tackle here to protect Mr. Heineke. And again, I'm not necessarily a tackle expert, so maybe you know more than me. Who would you go here out of like Jenkins, Cosme, and Mayfield?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat with these like tier 2, tier 3 offensive linemen. Some people it seems like are really high on Cosme. You see here he's ranked 13th overall prospect.
Yeah.
And some have him as a end of the first round type of talent. I'd probably be between Cosme and then probably Mayfield. It'd be the two guys that I'm considering. I'm still not sure about Tevin Jenkins. It seems like he's as of late kind of been going up rankings. So I need to see a little bit more of him. There's a couple other guys like Leatherwood from Alabama that maybe, but yeah, I'm just gonna go keep it simple, go with Cosme. That's probably what I would do. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Do you think the football team could go with a quarterback here, or do you think it's just very safe, just go tackle?
Yeah, I mean they could go quarterback, but it's a weird thing for them because they definitely need a quarterback, but I think it'd be better to go offensive lineman because I'm not a Mac Jones believer. Like they're not as bad of a situation as let's say the Panthers or this next team here with the Bears, where if they don't get one in free agency, they have to draft a quarterback in the first round, which, maybe spoiler alert here for the Chicago Bears next. But, if I was them, I wouldn't be picking Mac Jones because, like I said, I'm not a big believer in him. I think your top need is probably actually offensive line.
Yeah.
And there's some rumors that they bring back Mitch Trubisky and if they do, Jesus, God help them. The guy's an absolute, bust. I don't know what else to call him. Like, I'm a Panthers fan, but I'm a Chicago guy. So like that's my city. And I've been having to watch the Bears and Trubisky for so long. And, I feel like I could tell from year one that he wasn't the guy there. But like I saw reports that they still might kick the tires on him this season, which would be insane. So this is a pick that, again, if they do something in free agency and bring in a quarterback, obviously they won't go Mac Jones, but they're just so behind the 8 ball with Trubisky, who's probably like the biggest bust in NFL history. Yeah. At the quarterback position, considering who was available there otherwise. So I just have to go Mac Jones here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny to see all the Bears fans discussing about how they need Deshaun Watson when they could have just taken him, in the draft. So we're up here at 21 with the Colts. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think this is a no-brainer if Horn falls this far. I don't think Horn would probably. Again, it's really just subjective with what happens in the draft. I think Horn's a very good player. He's clearly the number 3 guy, but between obviously after Surtain and after the other guy whose name is escaping my brain right now. But I really do like J.C. Horn out of South Carolina, and I think the Colts want to bring in more defense. I think it has wide receiver ranked relatively high, but again, I'm not too sure if Bateman or if a guy like Kadarius Toney are going to go this high. So I'll happily go here with a corner to add to the defense to help out what should be a very solid defense for the Colts.
Yeah, I think it's a good value pick, man. I've been looking at offensive linemen for the Colts just because of the Costanza retirement. Yeah. But, maybe they address that in free agency. If not, I could see them going offensive line here. Though that'd be my top 2 picks of consideration. But with Horn, that's really good value. So yeah, I'm on board with it.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah. So you're up here at 22 with the Titans.
Yeah, so the Titans 22. I think you got to go defense here, and specifically on the defensive line. Like, to me, that was such a big issue, and it had pretty much a trickle down effect for the entire unit last season. And I think specifically on the interior of that line. So I'm looking at Barrymore here from Alabama, the D tackle. Yeah. I think he's going to be a good guy. Just kind of plug him in, take up space, free up some guys on the edge. And, offensively, you've still got the majority of your pieces. Yes, Jonnu Smith is going to be a free agent. But, you've still got A.J. Brown. You've still got Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill is got enough weapons around him to be serviceable, to be good. So I'd be going defense here. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. The Titans defense was not very helpful last season. They were a team I also kind of liked defensively, and that just seemed to fall apart. I mean, they're losing Malcolm Butler and all that, but again, there's not really a corner here that you can draft. So I completely agree with Barrymore. That guy was feasting in the championship game, I should say, the national championship game. And I think he's a very good player. At 23, the Jets are up. And this would have been like the biggest layup ever if the Jets could have drafted like Justin Fields and then drafted Chris Olave to just have that connection. But I'm not too sure what they would do here, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think it's very interesting to see what they do in free agency, because if Etienne's here, if Najee Harris is here, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets just drafted a running back. Obviously, they have a more defensive-minded head coach. They could bring in Aaron Jones. They have a lot of money, so they could really be paying any of these guys. So this pick will probably change by the time I record another mock draft, because free agency will have happened. So I'm going to go here and go with Azeez Ojulari. I think the defense needs some help. I'm not sure if you would have went elsewhere, but I really do kind of like that pick, even though I do know they need wide receivers.
Yeah, you said it there for me with your last plug in terms of wide receiver. I'd probably go Rashad Bateman. And I love Bateman, actually. Like, if this was one of my regular mock drafts, the guy would be off the board probably, in the early teens, mid-teens, something like that. Like, I think he belongs in the tier 1 discussion of wide receivers. Like, I love his size. I love his speed. But, I get it. The Jets have a lot of needs. So just kind of going next best available player for them. And like, they've still got Crowder. They got Mims last year. So from that perspective, I could see them passing on Rashad Bateman. But, either way, I think they're in a good position But moving on here to the 24th pick, for me, the Steelers, like there's one way they have to go, and it's offensive line.
Yeah.
Like they've lost so much talent there. Like Villanueva, Pouncey, probably maybe even DeCastro. And like those have been the stalwarts for their offensive line. Big Ben is 1,000 years old. The guy can't move. Um, and that offensive line, like it wasn't creating holes for the rushing attack last season. You got to reestablish that, whoever your running back is. So I'm going actually with Jalen Mayfield here from Michigan. I have him slightly higher than Jenkins. So just for that reason. But yeah, to me, it's got to be offensive line here for the Steelers.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like what we talked about earlier with the Cowboys. How you remember back in the day, Le'Veon Bell just standing there for 7 hours and then deciding to cut and go through the line. That would just be wide open for him. And obviously, that's no longer a thing. James Conner kept getting hurt. I doubt they bring him back. But again, you got to protect Big Ben. This guy is on the injury report every single week with a broken everything. He's never healthy. But he's always healthy on Sunday, but he's never healthy during the week. I just don't think he likes practicing. He'd rather go do some other things. But again, like you said, Mayfield, in your opinion, the best tackle available. I'm not necessarily someone who delves super deep into figuring out which of these tackles is best, but I'll agree with you there. Even if Michigan kind of sucks as a team, I'm sure Mayfield was helping them out. So at 25, the Jags are up, obviously, earlier on in the draft. They went with Trevor Lawrence, who no-brainer pick. I talked about it earlier. I have both of their picks, which is pretty funny. But here, I think they should go O-tackle. I think they should go Tevin Jenkins, but their defense also needs help. They're no longer the Jags defense of like 3 years ago when they beat the Steelers in the playoffs with Blake Bortles. So I'm going to just go O-tackle. I have a strong feeling that that's what they should do to protect Lawrence. Do you like that?
Yeah, man. It's like you said, the first pick for the Jaguars, that's a slam dunk. For them, the draft starts here at 25. And it's going to be a combination of who's available because defensively, they've got a bunch of needs. Anytime you draft, a franchise quarterback, going offensive line makes sense. So I don't hate that at all, going offensive lineman here. If it's elsewhere, probably maybe secondary help, edge help. Yeah. But they could go a number of different ways. I think it's just going to be a situation, how the thing plays out on draft day, and then just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I see a lot of people talking about how they should draft a wide receiver, but I'm pretty sold in on Laviska Shenault. I'm not saying he's like the best wide receiver alive or something, but I think him and Chark are a very fine combo. So I think they should be fine on that. So at 26, you got the Browns here.
Yeah, and for the Browns, unless they add someone in free agency opposite Myles Garrett, I'm just gonna go defensive end here, and I'm going with Rousseau here, or however you say his name. So yeah, you need someone to pair opposite Garrett, especially if he gets suspended swinging helmets again. And offensively, I think they're pretty well set. Like the offensive line is one of the best in the NFL. Wide receiver, maybe it could be a need depending on what they do with OBJ, but even without him, like they've got so many weapons at tight end, with Landry, with other emerging guys, and even Kareem Hunt as a pass catcher. So I think you almost have to go defensive here, especially on the defensive line.
Oh, I completely agree. Every single mock draft I've done, they've gotten one of the edge rushers, whether that's a guy like Phillips or Rousseau. I think it's pretty no-brainer. I mean, that defense was dealing with a lot of injuries last year. Wasn't as good as I projected them to be, but again, getting a guy opposite to Myles Garrett who's going to be able to just put fear in the quarterback's eyes, that's what you'd like to do for the Browns. So 27, we've got the team that may be getting scared by Gregory Rousseau and the Baltimore Ravens, facing them 2 times every single year. They need to draft, in my opinion, a wide receiver. You love Bateman, and I like Bateman as well. To me, this is no-brainer. Their wide receivers, just like with Tua, completely sell Lamar up the river. He's throwing it right to him. They're dropping it. I mean, I don't think he's the greatest passer ever. Obviously, he's not very good at rushing the ball, but you have to get him some wide receivers. I mean, Willie fucking Snead is like 7,000 years old. They have all these guys. Mark Andrews had a down year, but I think if they bring in a real wide receiver, I'm not even a big fan of Hollywood Brown. So I'm going to go Rashad Bateman here. I think this is really a no-brainer to a team that needs wide receivers very bad.
Yeah, man, I think it'd be a home run pick. Like, I like the fact that he's a little bit, bigger, maybe more physical type of receiver compared to Marquise Brown, who, if his life depended on it, I think it'd be a 50-50 chance whether he catches a football or not.
Probably.
So I like Bateman. You got to get a wide receiver. You can't just continue to rely on Mark Andrews as good as he is.
Yeah, and it's just it's terrible for Lamar because people just make fun of him relentlessly for being a running back. Meanwhile, Hollywood Brown can't even fucking wrap his fingers around the football.
Pretty much, man. Yeah, but at 28, we got the Saints up next, and these poor bastards, like, are they even going to have enough cap space to sign whoever they draft? No, they will, just because of all the restructuring they're doing and the cuts they're going to have to do. But I think this pick is going to be on the defensive side of the football, just because it seems like that side has been hit a little bit more in terms of cuts to get under that number salary wise. So I'm just looking at next best available player, and I'm between edge and then probably linebackers. So looking at someone like Bolton or Collins, but I'm going to put a higher priority on defensive end, and I'm going to go. You might have to scroll down on this one a little bit. Draft Network doesn't have them all that high, but I've got Joseph Osai as a guy that I like with some flexibility at that position. He can, get after the quarterback a little bit, maybe a little bit raw, but still, I kind of like him here at the end of the first round.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, the Saints are a team to me that is so confusing because I honestly have no clue as we're recording this who's going to be the quarterback. I'm sure your guess is as good as mine. I think it's going to be Jameis, but would you be surprised at all if Drew Brees somehow played again?
I mean, yeah, I would be, but the fact that he hasn't made an announcement yet is kind of interesting, which, I wouldn't be shocked because the way he went out in the playoffs versus the Bucs was just so bad, so ugly that I could see him trying to do it one last time. I mean, he could probably get through it. It wouldn't be all that great, but at the same time, it's probably time to hang it up. Jameis Winston is who I'd rather go with for the Saints' sake, just because as turnover prone as he is, like upside, he probably has a little bit higher upside than Drew Brees, and that's no hate against Brees, even though I'm a Panthers fan. So I hope he retires and never plays again. But
yeah, I mean, Brees could not hit anyone deep down the field. I mean, how many touchdowns they score against the Bucs, and one of them was Jameis throwing the fucking ball. So that's how you know how little confidence they had in Mr. Brees. So at 29, the Packers are up, and to me, the Packers are going to do something that no one's going to think about, right? We're all thinking, oh, it's so easy to draft them a wide receiver, get them a tackle. They're going to do something that makes zero sense. They'll probably draft a third quarterback. They already drafted Jordan Love last year. Everyone wanted them to draft a guy like Mims. They wanted them to bring in a wide receiver, and they just completely said, F you. They draft Jordan Love, who probably won't play for another 3 fucking years. So it really makes no sense. So here, I'm going to go ahead and say that they end up just drafting a tackle here at this pick. Liam Eichenberg is a guy that, in my opinion, probably will end up being a first-round pick with how many tackles, in my opinion, will go in the first round. So I'm not sure what you think about the Packers. I think they should draft Marshall or draft Kadarius Toney, but to me, they probably just will do the complete opposite of what we want.
Yeah, man, I've got a couple of friends that are Packers fans, and they pretty much said, forget the fact that they need linebacker and wide receiver help. It could be the 2 biggest needs ever. They're still not going to go that way. It's going to probably be offensive lineman, cornerback, or defensive end. Whoever has like the best showing, like they love their freak athletes, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think offensive line is a safe bet here. I like it, honestly. Yeah.
Okay.
Got to keep protecting Rodgers. But yeah, we're getting close to the end of this year with the Bills at number 30. And I've been going defensive end for them here for the longest time. But again, until we see more of these pro days and kind of we get closer to draft day, I think we've got a little bit of a tier break with the defensive ends. So I'm just going to go, best available cornerback instead, which I think is also a need. So I'm going Greg Newsome here. I know he absolutely killed it in his pro day in terms of the 40-yard dash he ran, and whether that's deservedly or not, it's going to bump him up draft boards. And the Bills are honestly just in a great position to just go best player available at the end of the day. Maybe they could go wide receiver here with the release of John Brown. That's something, I potentially considered, but, offensively, they're in a much better place, I would say. So don't have to sweat that too much.
What do you think about them going running back? Because it seems like Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, I feel like if they had like Najee Harris, the offense would be literally unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not all that impressed by either Moss or Singletary. but it just seems crazy to me that they would go like 3 straight years of high-end running back draft capital, which is,
Yeah,
crazy,
unheard of. Yeah.
especially when they have Josh Allen too, who kind of contributes to that position. So that's the only reason why. And I've done a couple mock drafts, and it's nothing against the running backs, Harris or ETN. It just I think at this point in time, like the running back position is going to be like a day 2 position moving forward, unless it's someone that's just an absolute freak, like a Barkley or a Zeke or McCaffrey, something like that. And I don't think that either one of those guys are quite on that level.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I think someone will end up picking one running back in the first
Yeah.
round, but I think the other two, like Javante as well as ETN or Harris, whichever falls in the second, will be picked there. But for the Chiefs, they don't need a running back. They drafted Edwards-Helaire, and while I'm a big critic of him, he's obviously fine. They're not going to draft another running back. I think they go wide receiver. They're losing Sammy Watkins. McCall Hardman is not the guy. It's literally Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and a bunch of bums out there. At least in my opinion, they're just all really fucking fast, and they all have no hands. So I'm gonna go with Kadarius Toney in my opinion. I don't think he's necessarily the best wide receiver available, but I do think the NFL views Toney in a very high regard, at least based on all the mocks I've seen. He seems like a locked in end of the first round pick. So I'm going to go with Toney here. There's a lot of guys, though, that are available that I think are going to be very good. Even a guy like Diami Brown later in the draft, I think could be very good. Same thing goes with Tylan Wallace, and Rondell Moore, who I like a lot too. But I'm going to go with Kadarius Toney here. Do you think Toney would get drafted higher, or are you more of a Marshall kind of guy here?
I'm actually a Rondell Moore type of guy, but
Ooh, okay.
Kadarius Toney is a guy that I think he's just had such a wide range of potential landing spots in terms of first round, second round, something like that. And I've seen him go in like the late teens, even in the first round. So it makes sense. And yeah, maybe he's a little bit raw, but if there's any team that can take a chance on that, take a gamble on it, it'd be the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, I don't hate that pick at all, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, they need offensive tackles because they just got rid of like two of their staple guys. But do you really want to take a tackle here at this pick? I mean, maybe Leatherwood, right? You might be thinking, but the Chiefs just seem like they don't give a fuck about protecting Mahomes, and maybe they think that he'll just be able to escape and play better than they played in the Super Bowl up against the team that you have now to close out the draft, the Bucks.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the Bucks, and yes, like similar to the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bucks. As long as Brady's there, you just go best player available in the draft for as far as I'm concerned. Maybe even they can honestly trade back. I don't think they have all that many needs. I'd probably be looking at edge here just because JPP isn't getting any younger. Barrett is a guy that he contributed a lot in terms of the sack number, and they might potentially not retain him because he's set to hit free agency. So I'm looking at like next best available defensive ends, probably Jason Away. If that's how you say the name.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, from Penn State. I'd be going there, and I'm pretty sure he tested pretty well also on his pro day in terms of how he showed out. So he's going to be someone that's steadily rising up. I've had guys like Osei or maybe even Phillips if he drops this far to the Bucks as fits. But yeah, I think you just need to get someone that can get after the quarterback. And like edge rusher is just so valuable of a position that it makes too much sense in my opinion here for the Bucks.
Yeah, I always have this one commenter who comments on every video. He's pretty funny and about how he wants the Bucks to draft a running back. What do you think about Leonard Fournette? Do you think he's going to be back or not? Because I've talked about this in the comments with this guy. I was just wondering what your opinion was.
I mean, I think Ronald Jones overall played better last season, and
I
like
agree.
he had more flashes, but both guys just couldn't catch the football really to save their lives. And then Ronald Jones, if he ever did, I feel like he'd just fumble it away. But I'd rather go with Ronald Jones honestly than Leonard Fournette. Maybe that's a little bit selfish just because for fantasy purposes.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you keep Leonard Fournette and you still have Ronald Jones there, like no way in hell you're going to go running back here.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'd probably be looking at running back for them. Only if it gets really bad during free agency, and if they really don't believe in Ronald Jones, which I can't say that for certain.
I mean, Bruce Arians every week is just a different guy in there. Like, I'm surprised Keyshawn Vaughn didn't get 600 carries last year. Bruce Arians makes no sense. But I also think James White is going to end up there for some reason. I just feel like him and Brady love each other. and they'll be able to win another Super Bowl because, why not? So that's the end of the video. Obviously, I'm going to pick Mr. Away here for the Bucks. You guys can, I'll just scroll down here. You guys can reread the draft if you guys want to. Do you have anything else to add here before we get out of here?
No, man. I mean, I think this kind of went down, to some extent how we expected. There were some guys that, in terms of talent and in terms of projections were available a little bit later on, but we kind of found good places for him. So no, I think at the end of the day, it's pretty realistic in terms of what we could expect. Obviously we didn't have any trades, which would change things up a bunch. And we're recording this prior to free agency. So maybe we can, take another go at it after free agency to see how it works out, because it's going to be so different. But, for now, how things stand, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree. I try to make this where we're trying to make this as accurate as possible. Again, we're never going to truly know what these GMs, the owner, what the coach is thinking when they're going to make these draft selections, but we're trying our best here. And I think we did a very good job here. Again, like you said, without knowing exactly what's going to go on in free agency, it's going to completely flip a lot of these picks. Maybe some teams we think are going to go with something they need another because they ended up bringing someone in. I mean, it's entirely possible, like we talked about earlier, that the Panthers don't need Trey Lance. They don't even have the pick because they have Deshaun Watson or something. So we will definitely revisit this. If you guys want to check him out again, you can check down below All Day Pigskin on YouTube. It's on Twitter as well, right? Same app.
Exactly. Yes, sir. Appreciate
All
it.
Day Pigskin on Twitter. Make sure you guys check him out. He makes a ton of videos as well in the fantasy season. So I assume most people watching this are fantasy football guys like us. So make sure you guys check that out. I hope you guys have a great rest of your guys' day. Again, please subscribe to him. He took time out of his day. I fucking slept in on his ass because, the time changed today. So hopefully you guys are all right on Monday, even though you're probably very tired. So have a great rest of your guys' day. Thank you guys for watching. As always, goodbye.